This morning. So nice
Hi.
of you to be here. Alrighty. I think there's still a lot of people coming in. So normally we just wait for like 1 or 2 minutes to just make sure that everybody has come in as well. Maybe we can already chat a little bit about you, Antonella. Where are you based actually?
Well, I'm based in Copenhagen. We have our makesYouLocal head offices here. So I'm actually in Denmark. Even if I'm Swedish, I'm in Denmark.
Nice. That's so nice. I'm actually also based in Copenhagen. I'm also really curious for the people that have already joined now. Could you also maybe check the Q&A section and just write, or the questions tab, and just also write where you're from. I just want to make sure that the questions are also working. So please let me know where you are from so I can also have a look to see where you are based. I'm seeing Johan from Halmstad, so welcome Johan, so nice of you to be here. Magdalena from Stockholm, thank you so much for writing, that's so good to see. Uppsala, Jönköping, Helen, Gothenburg, Anna, welcome everyone, so nice of you to be here. And testing out, I think the questions tab is working, so that's lovely. If you have any questions at any point during this time, Gothenburg as well, everybody's represented, so lovely. Oh, and one Copenhagen as well. Well, there we go. We normally wait a little bit, and I think we're kind of at our two-minute max. So thank you for already putting that in. And if you have any questions at the moment or during any time during the webinar, just let us know in this questions tab as well. So let's get started. Today, we're going to chat about international expansion. So we are really going into how can you expand abroad. And for this, today we will have me as a speaker. So my name is Michelle Reed. I didn't introduce myself yet. I'm the head of marketing at Trustpilot with a focus on Benelux and Sweden. And we also have a lovely expert here, Antonella. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. So Antonella, you can all see my name. I am an expansion specialist with makesYouLocal, and usually I talk to mainly Swedish brands that want to go abroad or are abroad and want to optimize their services and everything, the customer journey in those markets, and help them with that.
Nice. I love it. I love that you're here as a real expert to help everybody who joined today to expand abroad as well. So just really, really short about Trustpilot as well, because we didn't really go into the company. So I just wanted to very shortly talk about Trustpilot. I think a lot of people already know us. Of course, we are a review platform. We have, I think, top 1% most visited website worldwide, and I think in Sweden we are top 100. So a lot of people probably know us already, so I won't go into it too much. We have a lot of data and a lot of ways that you can use that data to actually expand abroad, but also to optimize your website. So we're going to talk a little bit about both of those topics today. And could you also introduce makesYouLocal?
Yes, of course. I don't know how many of you know makesYouLocal, but we have been around for 15 plus years now. I've been a part of that nice journey for 5 years. And what we do is we basically help web shops like you, brands, succeed abroad. So what's special with us is that we have these amazing native local teams that both know all of these 20 plus markets we work with very well, but they also know e-commerce very well. So we can easily help you with guidance and tips on how to be the best you can be on all of these different markets we work upon. And just to give you some stats, during 2024, we helped over 200 brands succeed and optimize on other markets than their home market. And currently we are doing customer service actually and other tasks for over 250 brands daily on a daily basis. So that's a bit about us, and I will get more into what we do as we go.
Nice. And I think it's going to be very interesting because we're going to chat also about like a lot of tidbits about logistics later on, deliveries, anything that's related to also trust abroad and indeed customer service. So there's going to be a lot of good learnings, I think, in this webinar. So I'm very excited to share that. Just to kind of go into what we're going to talk about. First, we're going to chat about scaling abroad, the current state, 3 phases of expansion. So what do you actually need to think about? What's really important? Maybe you are already in one of these phases, so please have a listen. I think they're going to all be really interesting for you. First, we will have the preparation phase. Second, we're live, and phase 3, feedback. And then we'll also have a bit of a Q&A. So again, I already see one question. Will you share the material? We will share the recording with you. You can definitely also ask for the material as well, like the deck at some point as well, if you want. Great. So scaling abroad, like what does that actually look like currently? So I just wanted to kind of zoom out a little bit and show you something which I thought was really, really cool to see, because of course there is a lot of potential as a Swedish brand to grow abroad, and there's actually the biggest brand that is from retail that has an international footprint is a Swedish brand, which we obviously all know. So I thought it was really good to kind of just show this and show like, you know, where possibly we could all be someday. So that's a really fun thing. There are a lot of tons of companies that have moved abroad very successfully. Of course, H&M, IKEA, but also ones that have like maybe expanded to Nordics or to different other regions. So a lot of interesting potential and a lot of growth to be found. In Sweden itself, it is like super, super high penetration in terms of e-commerce. Everybody uses the internet pretty much. Everybody, almost 88% already shops online every month. So there's so many already potential in Sweden, which probably you've already explored and you're quite aware of. Even around 2/3 of people, little under, shops even weekly online. So there's so much there. What's interesting is that Swedes also really like to shop locally. It has increased, like around, it was 65% also shopped abroad, and now it's around 73. It's a really, really recent, it was just, I think, launched like last week, new report from PostNord, so very recent numbers. But if you actually look globally, there is a lot more that you can win. So there is 6.42 trillion e-commerce sales expected in 2025. So it's crazy numbers that we are talking about. And there is so much potential, because if you just look at Nordics alone, where in Sweden it was around 70%, in other Nordic countries, which of course are the neighbors and also countries that often we look at as, or Swedish brands look at to expand abroad to, there's so much potential, because they do look as well at, they do shop online or abroad a lot. So I'm going to hand it over a bit to you as well, because you, of course, are the experts. So
yeah. So if we look at it from a brand perspective, when I talk to Swedish brands looking to go abroad, it is a very exciting moment. You know, you have dreams, you have expectations, but it can also be very challenging to actually launch abroad in a new market, because you know, you might not have very many in-house resources that know the market or are from the market. You might have a limited budget sometimes to start off with, or you think of it as a trial launch or something like that. So things can be challenging, but it's a very exciting journey. And the truth is, technology today makes it a lot easier than it was, you know, 10 years ago to start a web shop. So you don't really need an IT genius to create your own web shop and to have it on a good level. But that also means that competition is growing bigger and bigger, because any brand, small, medium, big, can have a web shop that is functioning. So simply offering unique products, or what we think are unique products in many cases, is not enough. We need to look more at, you know, the market itself, the consumer bases, and so on. But if we look at the stats of just scaling abroad, what we've seen is that there are a lot of Swedish brands that see potential in growing abroad. And what they do first, what they tend to go to first, is the Nordic neighbors like Denmark, Norway, and Finland. And that makes sense, because Denmark is actually the biggest first option for them. But it also makes sense because if you look at the numbers that I put at those flags, that represents how many Danes, Norwegians, and Finns actually have shopped online from a Swedish websites. So either localized or not, but from a Swedish brand. So you can see that there is a potential of a brand not being there actually opening up to those markets. And then on the bottom row, we have the other big, wish markets for Swedish brands as it looks. Germany is the mother of markets. Everyone wants to be there. Everyone wants to make it there. France as well, and the Netherlands as well. And then I put UK and Poland a bit on the side because UK is a bit of a special market right now. After they left, the EU basis and all of that, it's become a bit more tricky to enter it, but it's still on the wish list for many Swedish brands. And then Poland is a bit of a, I would say, up and coming market. It's growing, the purchase potential is growing a lot on the market, and it's also a market that has a lot of goods. So if you, for instance, are already active in Germany, it's quite easy to then also open up in Poland, as long as you keep that localized spirit in mind.
Exactly. And I think it's really cool to see that, what are kind of the preferences, but also what are further growth opportunities in these other regions, because that's maybe not always what people think about first. And for example, Poland is not really the, I would say, first thing to maybe go to, but it is definitely one of the expansion markets that you are seeing more brands going to. So it's really, I think, a cool thing to really see that that's now also part of this thought process for a lot of brands that you're helping. So kind of going into these phases of expansion, there are 3 phases that we generally talk about when we're talking about expanding abroad. First one is really this preparation phase. So this is kind of where you need to start understanding the competition, identifying these unique points. So as Antonella was saying, it's not just the product, you also need to kind of have a good, proposition or identify a unique brand that kind of appeals to people. And then there's a whole bunch of must-haves that you really need to think about before entering into some of these markets that Antonella just highlighted. So then we actually have this being live. So here we're going to chat a little bit more about localization, what is necessary there or not, which logistics and payments are needed basically in these markets, and which customer service, and to really, really grow and become more trustworthy as well. And finally, also like this, the feedback, like how can you actually implement what's like a normal time frame for people to actually grow in these markets, etc. So going into phase 1, which is the preparation, we kind of talk about these 3 points here. So in the preparation phase, when you're going into the market, you really first want to start with understanding this competition, right? You really want to know who's already there. How can you be unique? How can you identify your unique position? So that's point 2. And then 3, like these real must-haves that you need to have in the market. Going over to you.
And as I said before, talking to many Swedish brands, these are some of the common thoughts that I hear from them when they are just in that, we're not yet there, but we're preparing to go somewhere. So many are asking if it's, do I really need to localize right now? Can't we wait with that until later? Or English works well in Denmark, sure. Or we will try to, put some investment in marketing and drive traffic, and then we can look into localizing when we have a bit more, traction. And the classic, the last year or 2 years, I think is just, we'll just ChatGPT that, we're just going to translate it in that way. And I mean, you can go in any way you like, basically, when it comes to your tactics. So you can either test first, localize after, or localize everything and then launch. There are many different approaches, and you can hear that when you hear different brands explaining their journey and so on. But what I'm going to say is, without fully localizing your web shop and have that quality of localization, you won't reach your full potential. So you will probably lose many conversion opportunities and much of the investment you might put into marketing and ads, for instance. So you need to actually do some of the work before, in my point of view, because that is when we see that brands succeed even more on a new market. So it's not about only thriving through driving traffic, you also need to capture that traffic. And that's what I want to go into a bit more. And what you see here is the spider web of why actually underestimating local competition, if you don't understand it, is one of the biggest reasons for failing, for not having the results you were expected. So your company in a new country or market is, you know, you might feel like everything is going so well in Sweden, everyone knows us, you know, we have this brand knowledge, but it's not the same. It's not going to be the same when you enter Germany, for instance. A fun fact or a fun, you know, story is that we just had an event with 3 German specialists from Germany, very known, that spoke to us about their, you know, the brand unity they have, and they showed us a screen of 100 huge German brands. We only knew 3 of them, and they were shocked. And that is to say that, you know, just because you're known in one country, it doesn't mean you will have the same effects in the next one. So you need to dive into everything you see on this spider web. So cultural understanding, brand recognition, the language, all of these little things. That's what makes the difference.
Definitely.
And when you do that, when you try to understand local competition, what it means basically is you need to understand your gaps. What gaps do you have in comparison to local competitors? And what opportunities do you have? You also need to understand the market and its customers. And I put in some examples, like what could a gap be for you? It could be, for instance, that you don't have the legal terms that the customer in that market expects. They're not localized. You don't have the most attractive payment or delivery options. You have longer delivery times. So basically, you're overriding the expected convenience level that that customer on that market is expecting from any brand. You might also have opportunities, like everything is not dark and hard in those first moments on a new market, but you need to find those opportunities. So what makes yourself different? It might be that your products are different. It might be that you have better materials, or you use customizing, or you have free delivery, for instance. And if you then understand that and also understand what does this market need, it might be, you know, what are the prices of other competitors on this market? What's the level? What are the commonly and successfully used marketing strategies or important cultural aspects like holidays and things like that that you didn't know about that you can use? And also what the customers need, like the return habits, the language aspects, which channels they buy from, and so on. If you have an understanding of this, things become much, much, much more easy for you.
Definitely. And I actually kind of want to look into this also a little bit, because there are like a lot of different places, of course, where you can get into the competitors' data, and Trustpilot is also one of them. I think we have over 300 something million reviews. So we have a lot of the local competitors as well. So there is the option with, if you have an account, where you can, for example, enter the name or the website to kind of look into their data. You can actually kind of find how your business also compares to some of these, and kind of compare it across your own stats as well. Of course, in the beginning, you might not have all the local reviews yourself yet, but you can at least already see what are some, for example, of the key topics as well. So it's really, really important here to kind of find, you know, the mind of these customers, and kind of understand which review topics come out a lot as like a positive or as a negative. Is that more the delivery? Is that something? So you can also kind of try to find, what do I need to prioritize first, for example. So it's really good to kind of find, with these topic analysis, what exactly do you want to do, what is mentioned a lot, and these kind of things. But we will tell you some things in this webinar later, which are the key must-haves, because those in local languages don't always come through. So it is really, really important to kind of know those as well, because those you need to have as well there. So really kind of keeping track of that competitive landscape. I think like in our program, of course, you can use others as well. You can choose like 5 different companies where you can kind of see in comparison, like what is your scores looking like compared to the other ones? What were these topics and these kind of things? So here you leverage the data that exists online to really understand what is your competitor already doing well, what are their customers saying about them, and learn from their faults or their positives so that you can position yourself better in that spider web that Antonella was showing you earlier. So then we go on to the next phase, which is identifying this unique position.
Yeah, and just to connect it with what I said before, so if you have a good understanding of the market and of your competition and of the market's customer behavior and expectations, then this will give you the better definition of what it is that sets you apart. So then you will have a unique position to kind of touch upon. And I love to say you should think globally. That might be a bit of a newer term, but like you should think about your brand, your unique position, but still make it local, still make it as do a local personalization for the local consumers. And it's not about changing your brand so it's so localized that everyone thinks it is, you know, German or Norwegian. It's about showing off your brand in the best possible way, showing your story, but still making the customer say, okay, they are Swedish, but they really get us. They really understand what we need. And that's kind of the goal that you should have as a brand.
Definitely.
And just a side note here that, you know, sometimes we go into things. I see a lot of people I talk to, brands I talk to, that, you know, they just went live into a new market, and after 2 months they're all stressed out about why aren't we converting, things aren't happening, no one is visiting the site. You need to remember that things take some time. We usually set aside, you know, we say 6 months. For 6 months, don't expect too much. Like I understand it's very, you know, exciting and you want to see things happening, but you need to kind of build the momentum. So building your brand recognition takes time. It's not going to be the same as on your home market. You can, of course, better things, optimize them on a very high level before you launch, which will give some momentum, but still it takes time to build a strong market position. So, you know, ease into it for the first 6 months, and then, yeah, you need to see some action.
Yes, and this is very related as well to what we're going to talk about later, which is the feedback that you need to like really listen to in these first 6 months to really pivot and change with the markets.
And so let's dive into localization and why it matters. And one of the cases we have here is Germany, because that is the market, I would say, that most of my meetings with brands are about. So there are a lot of Swedish brands, and not only, that want to go to Germany and also succeed in Germany, because of course it is a huge market. It's a difficult market, but if you make it there, you can really, you know, do very well. So Germany is a very exciting market, but they're also, I mean, the customers in Germany are very special. They're the most tricky ones, I would say, of the markets we work with. And why is that? It's because they are quite specific in what they need. They are all describing themselves as small lawyers. So there's not a German customer that will go into a website and buy for the first time without checking the terms and conditions or the impressum, which is on the bottom of a page and shows the legality of the web shop. All those documents need to be in place. They also all love a good guarantee when they shop, like a 100-day refund guarantee or something like that. It's actually the first, they have the highest stats of customers across Europe that click on the no thanks to cookies. And they are very keen on searching your products first on a marketplace, especially Amazon, before actually buying from a website. But why do they do that? They actually need to trust you. That's the big word when it comes to the German market and the German customers. And this also relates to the fact that they are probably the customers in Europe that, the fewest times will make an impulse purchase from a website. So you really need to build trust when you launch in Germany or when you're live in Germany. And that can be done in many different ways, which we will look into also later. And just a little side note I put in there as well, that an interesting fact is also the Danish customers, for instance, would not buy from an untrustworthy looking website. So 35% of them will just not buy from you if they are a bit unsure of some part of your website. And Germany is kind of an extreme example. I can maybe call it that. But there are some must-haves across Europe and on different markets that we tend to see as, okay, this is kind of a baseline. You need to have this if you're going to go to one of these markets. And we try to put them up and map them out on this map. So for instance, I talked about Germany, so let's start with that first. PayPal is like the must go. Very many Germans say that if PayPal isn't there, I won't buy. It's just not so convenient for me. They prefer DHL. You need to be almost on Amazon. That's where they kind of build trust up for a website. German language, also a must, and legal documents. And of course, having Trustpilot or trusted shops on your website, so it's clear that you are trusted. In Denmark, you know, mobile pay is a big thing that makes it more convenient. Finland, Finnish language, Klarna, and actually direct bank transfers, very important for the Finnish consumer. In Poland, they also have Blik as a payment option, and Opinio is kind of like Trustpilot, you know, to show that a shop is trustworthy. Netherlands as well, Bol as a marketplace, huge, even bigger than Amazon. Ideal as a payment option, and PostNL for deliveries. And in France, also French language, super important, and a specific combination of delivery companies because they have a very specific delivery system that makes it complex. So that was just to give a general overview of some must-haves across the continent.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I'm actually from the Netherlands, so Bol for us is like definitely the biggest website. Amazon is like an extra. It came later. It's for me the knockoff version, which doesn't make sense for the rest of the world, but it is.
Yeah, so let's deep dive into a couple of cases, brand cases that you know, have cases that where we can see what can you actually do and what can you expect if you are in the preparation phase and you prepare in a certain way, and what can you expect out of that as a result. So for instance, the Danish company, Creative Company, it's kind of like Panduro. For you who know that, they have a lot of hobby materials and so on. They decided to extend into Germany, and they decided to conduct what we call a site check. So just a look through of their site. And then they got some recommendations saying that, for instance, you need to improve the language quality and so on. And after implementing them, they actually saw a 94% uplift in their conversion rate on the German market, which is an amazing result. And some of those recommendations with highest impact I put in here as an example. It could be, for instance, adding DHL as a delivery partner, or having a free shipping threshold, or adjusting, you know, base shipping price to €5, things like that. So small details can actually make a really big impact on conversion rate and how you're doing on a certain market. And then the next one is Royal Copenhagen, where they started off by having kind of a .com or EU site where they saw traction all over Europe, and then decided that, okay, we want to actually focus on the German market, and then did a fully localized translation of that website with, you know, large language models that was brand specific and built for their brand at a very good quality. And after doing that, with that launch, their shop performed like above expectations, and they reached an index of 140 by the year end, and they're still seeing continuous growth. So also having a language quality that is high, specifically in those countries where language is a very important factor for the consumer base is a must. So that is just to share a bit of how things can move forward with some simple steps. And this is just a recap of a bit of what I've said before. So what do I look at when a company comes to me and says, okay, we need some help, we're in the preparation, we want to launch somewhere. So what I would look at is market characteristics, as we said, consumer behavior, expectations, language quality, the first impression and a review of the web shop, what are payment methods that the customers there would like to see and feel, safe with, logistics, return procedures and costs, the checkout flow, competitors, who are they, why are they, what are they doing, what could we learn from them, and then the trust building. How do you show your customers that you are trustworthy on your website? And for anyone that wants a bit more information, and we have this Get Started guide. You can just scan the QR code to get it. It's basically we've put together all of this information, what you need to do before you go somewhere new on a new market. So you can easily download it and get some tips and tricks and some feedback from other brands that have done things on markets and so on. So please do.
Right. So we also have a lot of preparation that has been done, a lot of things that or the must-haves that we have. We're going to look a little bit more into some of those as well in this chapter, because now we're basically going live. We've decided the unique proposition, we've checked the competitors, we know the must-have, we are live. There are still like a whole lot of barriers for shopping. This was also from a post-Nord study, 2025. So we're going to go into a couple of these topics in a bit more detail. So for example, what post-Nord found was that negative reviews actually is like one of the highest barriers for shopping. So when the consumer actually comes to your website, or indeed, as Antonella said, like when the website looks untrustworthy. So that can be due to, for example, no reviews or no legal guidelines or stamps that you may need locally, or perhaps because the language is not there, but also having to pay for delivery, slow delivery, or lack of information on specific products or policies. So we're going to go into some of these topics a little bit more.
Yeah, and some of the common thoughts when we are in that phase, when someone is actually live already, but they try to optimize things, can be about, what is driving sales in this market really, because we don't really see traffic, or we think our brand story, our values, our mission is not coming through the same way as in our home market. It can also be, our current customer service setup isn't optimal for this market. And I'm actually going to focus a bit more on that part during this phase, because as you can see underneath there, doing or optimizing translations or optimizing payment logistic solutions, it's something we went through a bit in the prep phase. Of course, not everyone does the prep phase. Many brands just go live and launch, so you can still do them, but I'm just going to focus a bit more on the adding local customer service and what that can give to your conversion rate and growth in the market. Yeah. And to do that, I have chosen the French example. So why is it important with localization in France? Well, as we said, the Germans need to trust you, but the French, they need to understand you. So what we see with the French market and the French consumers is that they really need, first of all, French language, and they need it also when they get tracking information in their mailbox about something they bought, because also the delivery system is very complex, so it needs to be clear. They love formality in communication. That is a must, also on the phone. They are quite price sensitive, and they also like sustainability. They have a bit of that touch that we have in Sweden, for instance. And they also really enjoy, loyalty programs, points, rewards. That's something that can drive them to you, if you have that. And in a market like France, I think I would say that you need to be very clear, very formal about things, and most of all in French. Just to touch on this map again, now we set out the sensitive logistics part. So which markets are actually very sensitive when it comes to what kind of delivery firms are you working with, and what delivery options are you providing them. So we have mapped out a high priority and medium priority. The high priority for now is France, as we talked about before. They are used to 2 to 5 days of delivery time, home delivery or parcel shop, and they have a very complicated last mile delivery, which makes the cooperation with the specific carriers very important, because those are the carriers that can actually give the right tracking information and have the least failed deliveries in France, because yeah, it goes through a lot of hands before it ends up on the consumer's home or door or whatever. In Germany, they have a 1 to 2 day delivery expectation, maximum 3 or 4 days. Important is that you're clear about it if it is a longer delivery. They also like their home delivery, but then with some prolonged options, so late hours deliveries is something very good for Germans. The Netherlands, Michelle, you can also say that you love a very fast delivery, same day or next day. So yes, it's important to have your cooperations there in order as well, or be clear about that you have a bit of a longer delivery time. And then in the UK, they have the kind of a classic 1 to 3 days home delivery, parcel shop, or click and collect, but then you kind of need to have Royal Mail in there as well, because that's a trustworthy partner that most people want to see when they check out as a.
And actually, fun fact, I think, about the Netherlands, which I think is very shocking to a lot of Nordic countries, is because we care about it being so fast, we even don't care if it's delivered to a neighbor. And I think this is something that is quite shocking, I think, for a lot of Nordics, because there you would prefer if it's safe in your door. Maybe you don't want to interact always with the neighbor. And for us, it's just like, okay, it's home, it's there, great, I'll pick it up later, which I think is quite a big difference in the cultural need as well, and expectations.
So let's dive into the whole customer service part. So here we've mapped out high priority and medium priority on who actually needs customer service in their local language. And I want to just note that conversion will get a boost on any market with good local language use, but some markets aren't as much of a problem if you would start off with English or something like that. But there are some markets like Germany, France, of course the UK, but that's a kind of an easy one. Finland, I would even put Denmark in there, where having local native speaking customer service makes a huge difference. The fact that people feel like, okay, I see a good product, I will buy it, but then I also know if something goes wrong with my product or delivery on the way, I have someone there who understands me and I can reach out to, and they're close by. So that makes a huge difference. So an interesting point is to maybe dive into 3 markets, just to understand how different they actually are when it comes to tone of voice and customer service expectations. So we're going to look at, I think it's France, Poland, and Germany. But first, just some things about customer service. You were on the next slide, Michelle, there, that 12% of all orders lead into a customer service request. That's quite a lot, actually. Of course, we want that to be as low as possible, but that comes with time and optimization of processes and everything. And email is still the biggest channel that customers contact you through, but still phone calls are not gone yet. I know chatbot is taking more and more over in many senses, but they're still very, very much there. And top reasons for customer service contact is actually 60% after placing an order. So that's the most difficult cases, the most difficult questions and procedures. I just wanted to put that in there because that is when your customer service also needs to be able to handle that case in a good way, so that customer doesn't get scared of buying from you again and will be a returning loyal customer. So let's look at this example with customer service and the communication style for the same answer, but in France, in Poland, and in Germany. So I'm not going to read them through, but in France, you will see that the customer is expecting a formal answer, but it also needs to be sensitive. They're very aware, they need you to be aware of their feelings when they answer, when customer service answers. So it's very much apologetic, and you know, we understand, they need that to feel like they're appreciated as a customer. In Poland, they're more informal, just, you know, very chill in a sense, and to the point. So you just short and to the point, no sentiment, no extras there. And in Germany, they are formal again, like in France, so very typical, but to the point. So they get, it's kind of a mix of the two. And I think that, you know, sometimes we think, yeah, but how much does that matter? But it actually does. I think it does a lot that you have a team that understands not only your products and the market, but also understands the tone of voice of the market, the tone of voice of the customer. And that also translates into brand loyalty. You can see that the French are very emotional, brand loyal, and they have appreciation for history, heritage, prestige. The Polish are a bit less brand loyal. They prioritize price and quality over the reputation. That's what we see now, at least. And in Germany, they have a very strong brand loyalty, and they prefer quality and reliability. So that goes back to the trust that we were talking to before.
Yeah. And I think like this is also something that I've kind of tried to have a look at, you know, how many people in a lot of these different regions are actually currently looking for social proof, because that's also one of the other points of trust, is like, are other people actually using it? Is it really trustworthy? How has it been coming across in my region? Like these kind of things are really prevalent, and I've kind of put this as well, like a high prio, high medium prio, and medium prio based on the penetration of the users coming, of like percentage of the entire population looking at Trustpilot, just to kind of see when and where is it actually more needed as well. So for example, in the Nordics, we actually see it is a Danish brand, so we see that it is really common. There's a really high penetration in the markets to actually go to the Trustpilot website to check, especially if they don't know the brand. So really important if you are, for example, expanding to Netherlands as well, people will check if they don't know you yet. In Germany, like these other orange ones, we can actually see that there's high medium, so the penetration is also quite high, and medium, I didn't even put low because it's like it's quite a lot of the consumers already coming to check to see if the brand is actually also used by other consumers and trusted by other consumers. And I just wanted to also have a quick look into this, into the social proof aspect. Of course, people actually really pay attention to a lot of the legal aspects, but also about the human aspect, like, are other people actually trusting this? We all know this when we're going to like buy something online, you kind of want to see how many people have maybe bought it, what was the response, etc. But especially if you're moving abroad, it's a lot more important, because you really want to see, you just don't know the brand yet. So if you don't know the brand yet, this is going to be even more important thing to also have as part of it. You can then also actually utilize this as well when you are getting into these markets to build that trust in a bit more of a quick way. So if you already have built trust yourself as well, you can use that, or use maybe some of the more recent quotes that you are getting from local consumers as well, to actually, you know, show that locally you are also getting people who like you and who appreciate the product or appreciate the brand, which will resonate a lot better as well with the local audience. We've actually done some research into the impact in Europe, and we see that adding a quote, for example, can make it 3.7 times more appealing to click on these ads. So it's really like, how do you actually then utilize this trust across your different channels to really penetrate the market as well? So really good to be conscious of, okay, how am I going to use the trust that you have, use the content that your consumers generate, like reviews, in the marketing, in the website, to even boost the trust a bit more. I wanted to kind of show this as well. There are a couple of brands that have expanded as well into some other markets, or who have tested doing this. So I kind of wanted to show some of these brands. So within different industries, of course, reviews have a different impact. This is also the across Europe research. So electronics, for example, is like one where you need to be super high sensitive with reviews in the market. Health, and then it kind of goes holiday, travel, home, etc. I have like 3 examples within the industries that I highlighted to kind of show you what is the effect there. So within the beauty, for example, this was actually a brand that expanded from Netherlands to Belgium, and they've also implemented the social proof across their channels to really, resonate as well with the local audience, make sure that they're showcasing the local reviews in the local language. They actually saw that there was a 4% higher CTR in email comms, 8% increase in conversion from emails that were sent in local language with some of these local reviews, or just using the stars and the logo. 27% or 27% higher conversion on the website as well. So having those local proof points can really also help your expansion then in the market, especially when you start collecting them. This I thought was a really fun test, because this is actually from Fairphone, and they were expanding into the French market, and they tested different types of content. So what I always think is like a quote works really well, but in this case they've tested this specifically in the awareness phase, and they saw, for example, I think the option where it was focused without the quote, it was 40% higher clicks in this one. So that's like quite an interesting thing. So I would always recommend to really test to see what works as well for the other local audiences. And finally, this brand is expanding into Germany. They, as Antonella was saying, they're quite price sensitive. They like a good bargain as well, in a way. What they actually had was a discount campaign where they had 65% discount, so it was a lot. It's a fashion brand. They tested with and without Trustpilot logo, because it is one of their expansion markets, and they saw some really interesting results, like 80% higher return on ad spend, 25% lower cost per I know this one, but like I'm just having a little bit of a blank. Cost per, anyways, 8% higher average order value. I will come to that other point later, but it is like a lot of really positive results that they are seeing. So it's really, really good to try and test that and really bring that local trust, as well as, having those legal parts in order, and the delivery and the customer service as well. Yeah, I think this one is a Swedish brand. They have some scooters, roll. They actually are showcasing on their website the local quotes from the people. So really with local names, with the local impact. So then it really resonates as well very much with the user. They've actually also implemented showcasing Trustpilot product reviews, and that led to like 37% more items in the shopping cart. So really good to have that sensitive local mindset as well there. And then going back to you for some ideas and inspiration.
Yeah, and the case I can showcase is, because we talk about, how to use that local mindset, and also the weight of understanding the market and the customer behavior across the markets, and why that's important in customer service, is, for instance, what Matsmat, that everyone should know in Sweden, what Matsmat or Motatos, as they're called across other markets. It's a very special business. They have a very special mission to not waste food. And what they did by outsourcing their customer service and getting those native local teams to work with them across different markets, was that they maintained a consistent brand voice, which can be hard when you have a very specific mission and very special mission, while catering to the needs of the markets that they were on. And by getting that, they could, of course, just let that part go and focus on what their mission actually was. Of course, to grow, but to grow by reducing food waste. I think that when we talk about specific brand knowledge, you know, awareness, you want to place yourself in a specific way on a market, it's very important to have that local team that actually can translate this to their market and to the consumers they know in a specific way. It makes your job much easier. And the case that I can quickly go through is Nordic, that they also had to, you know, they want to expand in 4 foreign markets, and they also chose to get local customer service, which actually increased their order volume by 93% on those markets, which is amazing. And what I want to kind of focus on here is that if you have that local team with that knowledge that, you know, you might miss in-house, that team also becomes advisors to you when it comes to preferences, you know, on the market, or how do you more effectively handle the support, the customer support part, and also how do we then improve processes so that they're relevant to the customer. So it's actually you need to use your customer service as a means to grow, and not just as a team that handles, you know, calls and mails. Yeah.
100%. I see that we are talking a lot and we only have 10 more minutes left, so maybe we want to skip this one just to kind of go a bit quicker into the next phase, because as Antonella also mentioned, like customer service team and local teams are really good source of feedback. Of course, actually getting that feedback directly from your consumers also really important. And I think within this feedback phase, there's also a lot of things, a lot of common thoughts that we're going to get into. I think we might need to go a little bit quick because I also would love to answer some questions as well.
So very fast, in the feedback phase, it's all about what do you do with the data you have. So it's going bad, or it's going okay, or very good. And then it's time to look at, you know, either optimizing some things more or adding some new tools, outsourcing customer service, growing in different ways. So that's basically what we're looking at here. And an important part of it is the voice of customer. So what Matsmat actually has done a lot is they have utilized all the data from customer service, which we can see on the next slide, to build new features, create new internal processes, add smart AI tools, and actually make that customer service investment count in the growth that they are seeing across markets. So not only are we bringing costs down by, you know, improving processes and maybe bringing down conversations in the end by 20%, just like Matsmat, but we're also bettering the customer journey and creating more happy and loyal customers.
Nice. And I think this is also something that we really go into, because of course reviews can also be part of customer service as well, and definitely a good source of data. So have a look at which topics are working well, which ones are not, to really support this business strategy. Find where you need to still optimize, find where you still need to go, check the sentiment that is coming from these from the feedback that your customers are providing, which topics are they happy about, which ones are not, to really leverage. This is something that we, for example, also have. We have an AI in the backend that can help with these analysis already and give you direct tips, basically, but definitely leverage that when you have feedback coming your way. I just wanted to share one more example as well from Perfumery, which I showed earlier in their kind of expansion phase, but here they also found that learning from the reviews actually lessened their amount of complaints. So they do a topic analysis where they basically saw that when they got a lot of reviews mentioning logistics, it actually had a lot lower score compared to the rest. Where they optimized their logistical process based on the feedback from the customers, and the next quarter they had 30% less complaints about the delivery. But another really interesting way to use it is they actually have specific topics that they assign, and they found that when they mentioned free samples within the region, they had an 11% higher trust score for that specific topic. So what they did is utilize free samples within all the communication to this region, added to the website more as like USPs below the delivery. So actually really utilizing what is said in this to optimize your marketing comms, and possibly even your email comms as well as on the website, to really make sure that that user flow matches the local audience. So I think that's it for my section.
I don't need to go through the whole list, but as you mentioned, Michelle, when things aren't going as anticipated, there are a lot of opportunities to improve. So don't feel really, don't stress too much about it. You just need to find the right teams to work with that can help you find answers to why things aren't going as they are expected to. And there are countless opportunities to improve. And just quick about the case when it's going good. We have seen, Rapunzel of Sweden, Daily Sports, and Zizi, they have come to us when they have actually been doing very good, just looking ahead in time, because it's all about building something strong step by step. So even if it's going good, how can you optimize so that you grow, that you gain new potential, new momentum, maybe go to new markets? And what most of them did was that they outsourced their customer service, so they left a part that they weren't doing very good to someone that could do it good, to be able to focus on what they knew. So create new products, new tools in their website, new functions, and just personalization things that made their customers even more happy to buy from them and return, and also attract new customers to them. So invest in technology, an external partner to support your growth when things are going well, and the sky's the limit, just to be short about that.
Yeah.
And here you could download, if you want, what we have found out of analyzing, voice of customer out of almost 800,000 customer conversations across 300 web shops that we work with, and might be quite interesting for you as well.
Yeah, and I think really key here is like just really make sure when you get some of these cues from local regions that you're expanding into, be sure that you take it seriously. Like we know, for example, that when people actually leave a negative review about like logistics or about the customer service or these kind of topics, not everybody will leave a review. So there might have been already 20 people experiencing this and only one person has left a review. So because not everybody is leaving reviews all the time, if you get one, there is an extremely high chance this has happened to others in the local region. So be super sensitive to it. Make sure that you utilize this customer feedback, utilize the customer service data, just to make sure that you find those growth opportunities quickly as well.
Good point.
Yeah, just to kind of finalize, I'll just leave this one on. I just want to make sure that we have some minutes for questions. So if you do have a question as well, please let us know. We will share this recording with you, so you can also watch back at another time. I think we didn't have so many questions coming in, so I hope that also makes that things are really clear. We always get a very common question, which is actually how can you actually make sure that you start getting these reviews? And what we think is really important with that is just to make sure that you have an automated trigger after each point of sale, or it can also be after a point with the customer service, for example, but make sure that you have this automated trigger on, so you actually start collecting the feedback. If you're thinking of it within the customer service and which feedback you're receiving there, make sure that there's like, something flowing in as well, to really make sure that you grab the data, that you analyze it in time, and those kind of things. So yeah, we're kind of on time. If you want, book a demo with one of our experts. They can also help you to see what will help in your expansion markets. But definitely have a look at makesYouLocal, chat with them about your next steps as well, because they have a lot of local experience and knowledge. So if you're interested in any of these, let us know. And otherwise, thank you so much, Antonella, for all of your insights and all of your knowledge sharing, and
Thank
for
you for
everybody here that attended as well. It
that
was really
has
lovely.
or anything. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn, or just scan that QR code, and I will be very willing to just have a very casual chat. So yes.
For sure. And thank you guys so much for being here today, spending the hour with us. And I'm happy to see that you guys have learned a lot. It's nice. Thank you, Helen, Bradley, Ingemar, for the thanks as well. See you guys later, and I hope you have a lovely day.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye-bye.